Welcome back to Mike's Archery's YouTube, and we are checking out a brand new item that we are privileged to bring to you, and that is the Garmin Xero X1i. So if you are familiar with Garmin's Xero A1i on the archery side, this is its cousin for crossbows. So Garmin has been working on this for a while. It's something we've been in conversations with them since we really came on with Garmin, and they introduced that bow sight. A lot of the questions were, when's a crossbow scope coming? Is that something you're going to have? Well, folks, here it is. So we have got the brand new Garmin X1i, and it is a fantastic piece of equipment. If you've heard all the things that Garmin can do on the archery side, they have taken all those features and a few others and plugged those into a crossbow scope. And frankly, we are thoroughly impressed. And Garmin never ceases to put out quality, and they continue with the new crossbow scope, and we are just excited to bring it to you on launch day. So we're going to dive into this thing a little bit, kind of give you an overview of what it can do and the features that it has in it, and hopefully it's going to be something that you guys are looking for to put on one of these new high-end Ravens or a 10-point, or any other crossbow that you've got out there and you just want some of the capabilities that Garmin brings to the table. The Garmin Xero crossbow scope is going to be a 3.5 power crossbow scope. So obviously not high power on the optics, but just enough, like most of your crossbow scopes out there fall in that 2 to 4 power range. This is right in there at 3.5 power, and it's got some high quality glass in it. It's an in-house Garmin scope, but it is very crisp and very clear when we're looking through it. You can tell it's high quality optics built into this scope. The ranging capabilities, obviously that is one of the main things that Garmin has thrown out there through the Xero archery site, but in the crossbow scope, you're going to have the ranging ability from 250 yards is about the max you're going to get shooting on game, but on a reflective surface, it is going to range out to 500 yards. Now, with that said, you're only going to have a ranging capability for shooting that's going to give you either dots or a moving pin inside there that's going to go out to 80 yards. We really wanted to see it at 100 yards because a lot of those Raven bows and things are coming out and touting that 100-yard shooting. But this one's going to stop at 80, but still, you're going to get exact ranging from the Garmin site, and it's going to give you that pinpoint dot that's going to put it right there and extreme accuracy. So you're not going to have to worry about the accuracy. If your bow's shooting it, this scope is going to pinpoint it and put you right on spot with it. Now, some of the reticles in there, it's going to give you variable reticles. So it's something you can really program and choose inside this scope, something that you're going to be able to kind of, if you like a pinpoint dot versus a circle reticle, all that's built into it, and there's custom preferences in there that you can choose. One of the other custom preferences that we noticed as we were playing with this thing is all the color variations. I believe when we were going through it, there's 8 color variations. Some of the main ones, obviously red and green, like pretty much every other scope out there you're going to see. But they've got blue, they've got orange. There's several others in there that are available for you to kind of play with. If something looks better to you, whether you're colorblind or whatever the reason might be that a color sticks out better to you, know that you can change those profiles inside this scope and get it to what you can see the best. The other thing with those colors, it's going to have an automatic adjustable brightness in there. So depending on the ambient light from outside or wherever you're shooting at, whether you're inside a blind or whatever, it's going to adjust for that ambient light that's around you. It's going to bring those colors down and adjust down if you're in a little darker situation, or if it's really bright outside, it's going to bring those colors up automatically so that you are getting the best possible scope and reticle that you can see, along with all the other stuff that's going in there. The ranging numbers, all of that is backlit in those colors so that you can see what's going on regardless of the amount of light that you're in. It's just a really cool feature and something that's going to make this scope real customizable for you, and just a fantastic piece of equipment. As part of the reticles in the scope, you are able to not only have that pinpoint single dot when you range, but you're also able to have your specific markers of reticles distance. So just like a standard scope would have your 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on, all in one frame, you're able to hit that button one time. If you're in a situation where you want those fixed yardages, you can bring that up on here as well. It's something that was also on the original Xero for archery, but it's something that's in the scope as well that if you have a quick situation where you don't necessarily have time to range or move, and hey, you know, I need 20 yards of this tree, 30 yards, and you need to swing and move, you can bring up all those dots at once and make an adjustment there and still get the shot off by having those fixed position pins all in your reticle. From there, you've got a custom bolt profile. So if you remember with the Garmin Xero A1i on the archery side, you had some custom arrow profiles in there where if you were shooting a target arrow at one point and switched over to a hunting arrow, you could just, with the click of a button inside the settings, you could set your sight for those different arrows that you're shooting. The crossbow scope version has the same capability. So for some reason you're shooting a hunting bolt, or you've got two weighted bolts, one that's a lot heavier, you know, for whatever reason you might have different arrows, you've got a multiple arrow profile in there to set that crossbow bolt. So you could just, a click of a button, you can move from one profile to the other and shoot that arrow and still be exact and precise in your shooting. Garmin has come to us with this thing being able to be preset, and it's going to be a very simple process setting it up. You're basically going to mount that scope, then deal with the level portion of it, and it's got an automatic inclinometer in there. And then if you go in and set it with the profiles, you're going to go through the speed of your bow. We would probably recommend that you have a chronograph available. I know that's not something everybody's got, but if you want to get that exact speed right off the bat, I know a lot of people, you know, they see their bows and it's advertised, hey, this shoots 450 feet a second. You can plug that in, but depending on what area you're shooting, you may not be getting 450 feet a second out of that bow. But if you set that speed in this scope, it's going to automatically calibrate for that speed of the arrow, and then adjust your dots and adjust your reticles and your rangefinder and everything based on that, so that you're getting precise accuracy. Now, like I said, if you've got your bow set up, it does have a feature in there. If you don't have a chronograph available, it's going to take you through that sequence. You can tell it, hey, my bow shoots 400 feet a second. Program it in there, man, you get back to 50 yards and all of a sudden, man, it's dropping and it's not right. This scope is going to allow you to go in there in those profile settings, just like in the archery one, and say, okay, were you shooting high? Were you shooting low? Which direction was it? And it's going to automatically compensate at 50 and 60 yards and say, okay, well, if you're low there, that means your bow must be shooting slower. And it's going to compensate that for you and automatically set those pinpoints for you if you don't have that chronograph available to get that exact speed of what your bow is actually shooting. So they've really taken a lot of the guesswork out of it and made it very simple to set up. And frankly, for us hunters, that's probably a good thing. Making an easy setup. You know, not only when you're paying this price point, you don't want to have to stand out there and shoot 50, 60 arrows to get this thing calibrated in. You're going to be able to shoot 2-3 arrows and really have this thing zeroed in and ready to go, especially if you're on a time crunch. But just the ease of setup is just amazing as we were playing with it, the ability to do that on this scope. Inside that reticle, once you get that thing set up, obviously you've got your ranging capabilities. It does have an inclinometer. It is going to give you that ranging capability with your incline decline, so you've got that ability to see what the scope is actually ranging, and it's going to compensate for that angle. So if you're hunting out of a tree stand for some reason rather than a ground blind, it's going to compensate that angle, get your yardages right for you, and put that pin where it needs to be. If you're doing a spot and stalk situation, maybe you're elk hunting in Wyoming out west or something, and you got an extreme, you know, up angle or down angle, it's automatically inside the scope. You can see that off to the side. It's telling you what your incline and decline is. But not only that, it's also telling you that if you're shifting left or right, it's going to show you if you're canting that bow one direction or the other, and tell you, you know, to bring it back to level. So it's got an automatic leveler in there that you're going to visually be able to see on target. The other thing with the ranging capabilities, it's got a target lock system in there. So that feature is going to tell you when it's getting a consistent reading on an item, whether it be an animal or a tree or whatever you're trying to range to get that distance, you're going to be able to know that it's locked onto that target and it's getting a consistent range. If for some reason you're waving or missing something, you're not going to see that target lock. Now, you do not have to have it on target lock to be able to get a range. It's going to range it and you can shoot from that, but it gives you that extra confidence in knowing that you have got a locked on target for what exactly you were shooting at. and that it's giving you an exact range and it's really working for you. One of the other things you're going to notice inside the reticle when you're looking through the scope is there is a compass in there as well, and that is something you can calibrate with the sight to make sure that it is being accurate. But the compass is going to allow you, obviously you don't necessarily need to know that you're pointed south when you shoot, but that's part of its calibration with the GPS built into it that is going to allow it to link with other things from Garmin. So there's a lot of other equipment from Garmin, such as wearable watches, some of your handhelds, several different units from Garmin this scope will pair with and allow you to link information between them. Now, if you remember with some of the A1i features, it paired and would actually drop a waypoint when you shot. It would drop a waypoint where you were when you shot, and then based off the range, it would actually drop a waypoint as to where the animal should have been standing when you shot it as well. And so that's what it's using that compass and GPS function for, and that's something that it will pair with and still do out of this crossbow scope, the same as the original Xero did. Really cool technology that Garmin has to be able to plot that on a map for you to be able to go back and know a waypoint of exactly where you were standing, exactly where the animal was standing. It's going to help in recovery and knowing direction, that, hey, I was shooting north and he ran off northwest. There's just so many things that it's going to help in recovery and just knowing where you were when that shot took place. Now, some of the other features, obviously, you are going to wonder about is going to be battery life on this unit. And with 2 lithium AAA batteries, it is going to get a year's worth of battery life. Now, I'm sure that does depend a little bit on how much you're using it, how much you leave it on. Those are profile settings that you can go in there and adjust as to how long it stays on before it cuts off, coming back on, things like that. But overall, they're getting about a 1-year battery life, and you do see that in your display. So you do know that if you're headed out there, hey, my batteries are getting low, maybe I better put a new set in there. And AAA batteries are readily available. You can throw those in anywhere, have an extra set maybe in your pack or in your crossbow case, so you know that if you get there and you need that, hey, you got them right there with you. Now, the trigger on this thing, it does have dual triggers on it, so you're able to mount, as you can see here, the wired trigger to a press point button there. Now, you can mount that anywhere on the crossbow that is convenient for you, whether you're left or right-handed, and that's going to give you just one touch ability. Now, you can also touch the top of the scope as well, and that's going to give you your range finding ability, turning the scope on, giving you all those features. So you got your reticles and you've got your points to shoot, just really easy access from wherever you're at, and it allows you to get to it anywhere on the bow. Now, there are several other features that this scope does. It does have a string counter on it. So if you're wondering, hey, how often do I shoot my crossbow? It'll actually count down for you either on a daily counter or a weekly counter and a lifetime counter. So it knows when you're shooting this bow. It knows when it goes off to record that you have taken a shot. Now you wonder, what good is that? Well, if you're wondering how much string life you've got, or hey, I want to be able to replace my strings after 500 or 1,000 shots, and you want to practice with your crossbow a lot, this scope's going to keep track of that, and it will tell you, hey, you've put 500 shots on your bow. You may want to look at replacing your strings and cables now because you've been using this thing a lot. Also, if you just want to know, hey, I'm doing reps and just practicing with my crossbow, it's going to keep track of those shots as well. So there's some features there in the scope that, you know, just takes some thought process out for you of, you know, how much wear and tear am I putting on my equipment, and just helps you, just like oil changes in your car, having that little sticker in the window. This thing's going to keep track of that and tell you when to change your strings and cables, or maybe if you want it on there as to rail lube and, you know, just taking care of things in general, waxing your string, you'll know after so many shots, hey, this thing's going to tell you that information. The other thing that it's going to tell you is you can do a shot profile. Now, with the original Xero, you had the ability to do a shot profile. It would tell you, you know, how stable you were shooting, how much vibration was in the bow. The scope does the same thing. It'll tell you how much vibration is in each shot, how long that vibration duration was, and it'll allow you to put silencers on there to take some of that vibration out. But it'll also tell you that if you were floating or waving or moving, it'll record all of that in the scope, and you can keep those profiles in there telling you what you need to work on to relax, make the shot better. You'll be able to visually see it in the scope. Just some really cool technology from Garmin there, allowing you to see what's going on while you're shooting. One of the other cool features that the scope will show you is a flight apex, and you can see that in the scope. And what that is, it's telling you the maximum height of your arrow flight during the shot. And so what that is telling you is if you're on point at 50 and 60 yards and you look out through there and hey, there's a branch just above where I'm planning on shooting out through there, you're going to be able to look at that flight apex and say, hey, my arrow is going to reach a maximum height in that arc plane getting to my target, and it's going to hit that. Maybe I need to crouch down. Maybe I need to adjust my shot placement, or maybe I need to wait because it's going to fly out through there. I'm going to hit a fence post or a string of wire or something that's in between me and the animal. It's going to show you that flight apex in the scope, and you're going to be able to visually see where that arrow is going to be from point A to point B in your shot. Now, Garmin has always made a quality product, and this is no different. It is an extremely well-built machine, and it is electronics. So those two things go hand in hand, but keep in mind, it is not waterproof, it is weatherproof. Now, if you're in the rain, if you're in the snow, if you're in normal hunting situations, in normal weather, this scope is going to perform flawlessly and be just fine. It's not something that I would submerge in a river for a while, but at the same time, it is highly weather resistant and does have a waterproof rating, but it is not a waterproof scope. So keep that in mind. It is usable in all weather conditions if that's something that's concerning to you, because it is electronics. It's still going to perform at a very cold rating, a very hot rating, and also if you're out there in the elements and you're getting rained on, don't worry about this thing. It's going to be perfectly fine. Along those lines, it is also only a crossbow scope. Now, if you had the bright idea that you're going to throw this on an air gun or your shotgun or your rifle, don't do it. It is not rated for that. It is rated for a crossbow. It is not going to withstand the shock and the shot out of a gun. So if you do that, Garmin's going to know when you send it back that, hey, this was not shot on a crossbow when it stops working. And they're going to see that. It will void your warranty. It will not function. So just be aware, this was made for crossbows. It is a high quality scope, but it is not something to put on a firearm in any way, shape, or form. Also along those lines, we need to look at probably legality. Every state is a little different, and we always recommend anytime that we're working with something like this to definitely check your state laws. Be fully aware of what your state game regulations are and whether you can hunt and use this in different situations, different seasons. It is legal in most states. The map that we have seen, I believe there's about 28 states it is perfectly legal to use during archery season. Some states are more specific that you can only use it if you're handicapped in some way, shape, or form, or you can only use it during firearm season. And there are a handful of places where it is completely illegal to use this scope as a hunting item. Just be aware of those things. Be sure and check your local game laws. Maybe call your local game warden so that he knows and you're not going to have any issues using this product. But for the most part, from what we have seen, it is legal in most states. We have only begun to scratch the surface of what this new Garmin scope is capable of. We tried to give you some of the main features and what we really stuck out to us and what you really would be interested in, but you're really going to have to dive into this product to see what all it offers in the professional settings and those upper end customizable settings inside this scope. It's going to give you so much information about your shot and the things that you're doing that you're just going to want to play with it and really figure out what it's capable of. Linking to other devices, all those features that they give you are amazing. And the price point on this scope is coming into us at $13.99. And I know that sounds high, but if you're that guy that's spending $2,000 and $3,000 on a brand new Raven or 10 point, and you want those high-end optics and you want those high-end features, then Garmin is right there and something that you need to look at for putting on there. So when you purchase that new bow, we look at it from a couple of ways. If you're going to spend a brand new high-end scope, you're probably going to put 5, 6, 7, maybe even more into a brand new high-quality scope to put onto a rifle. And a crossbow, you can definitely spend several $100s there. And if you're going to go out and buy a high-end rangefinder, you're also going to go ahead and spend $300 or $400 again. So you're right there at that $1,000 mark before you even get started, and you've got two pieces of equipment that don't work together, and you haven't even gotten to the features that Garmin is throwing into this scope with the ability of what it can do. So keep that in mind when you're looking at high-end crossbows and you're wanting to put a high-end quality scope on there, this is certainly something that you should definitely consider as you go forward to put a brand new Garmin Xero X1i on a brand new high-end crossbow. We're hoping to have these scopes in stock and available for you very soon, so be sure and head over to mikesarchery.com and pick one up.